can be the best technologist in the world, you can be the best engineer in the world, you can be the best at anything in the world, but if you can't communicate those skills to a prospective employer or to your teammates, then it's basically unrealized potential. So communication skills are the foundation stone of being in any sort of an organization in which you are in a collective and have to share your knowledge and your skills. There are certainly lots of roles that are standalone, and there are plenty of people who like to do those, but in any sort of an environment that is collaborative, which is just about all environments today, the requirement is for strong communication skills, reading, writing, speaking, period, end of discussion. And it isn't to say that anybody should judge you for your accent or necessarily your ability to, articulate in great detail, but that you should be effective at communicating your thoughts. And the only way that anybody's going to be able to leverage what you have to give is in your ability to communicate those details. And that's in writing, and that's in speaking, and that's in your interpersonal relationships with your teams. So I would suggest to you that those skills should be as paramount as your hard technical skills in doing what you do. And only by virtue of having both of those do you represent a balanced equation that should easily find a home in a team.
Oh, good. Maureen, yeah.
I'd like to add to that. So I manage 2 bridging programs, as I said earlier, and it's for newcomer IT professionals. And we just so I'm clear, we don't do technical skill upgrading. It's mostly soft skill development, which refers back to the communication piece. Because what the employers are looking for here when you go to an interview is what we call fit. The mere fact that they've invited you in for an interview means you have the technical skills they're looking for. What they look for when you come in is your ability to communicate, your body language. Are you somebody who will fit into our team and integrate well? And what that means then is the critical piece for you then becomes your ability to share your previous work experience in such a way that an employer can say yes to you. If you cannot share your previous work experience, in essence, when you're in the interview, your previous experience, what the employer is looking for, you have to be able to describe that your work experience is actually a fit for what they're looking for. Even if it's not an exact match, but you can say, I've had experience with such and such, and I know that it's similar to the platform that you're working on. So if you can draw those connections for them, it makes that whole process a lot more straightforward for the employer. So, and just one last thing I want to say is, if you are looking to access any of the bridging programs in Toronto, they're going to want you to do your Canadian language benchmark assessment. If you haven't done it, you should do it as soon as possible because it takes a while to get the appointment. For the 2 programs I manage, for the Coaching to Career program, which is for people who are really job ready, you must have a language level of 8 in reading, writing, speaking, and listening. And for the iOS program, the other program I manage, you have to have a language benchmark of 7 to 8. So we can tell you more about that at booth 57, but the key thing that the employer is looking for in the package from you is your ability to communicate, so your language, your understanding of the Canadian workplace culture, and your communication skills become the critical pieces that are important.
Wonderful. So I think, Laurie, could you please add something?
I just want to talk about in the workplace itself how you can maybe deal with some of these communication language issues that come up. At TechSoup, we had, half of our staff, English was not their first language. And so I would say in addition to, connecting in the interview, which is important, I think as a newcomer, new to the language, it is hard, but if you show a positive and willing attitude to learn, then I think that goes a long way. And so in TechSoup, we had customer service that provided tech support. And half of our staff, French was their first language, which we needed for the French clients. And I actually took French calls sometimes, so I was speaking my second language. And to get around that, we developed systems to deal with that. So obviously when you're on the phone, the ability to understand each other is really important when you're trying to resolve a tech issue. And so if the accent was a barrier, or we couldn't come up with the right vocabulary, and often I was on the phone speaking to a Quebecois and I couldn't think of the right word. And so we developed systems around that, so I would try to kind of use things visually. I'd say, where on your screen is this, if I can actually say the word. And so we would try different angles of approaching the problem until we finally clicked. So even though language is a barrier, you can kind of navigate around it. And if it got really bad, then basically I'd say, you know what, we're not getting anywhere on this problem. Why don't I take down as much information as I can, and then I'd actually go to a native French speaker, and he would respond back with a well-researched answer, and they could speak more in their language. So that's kind of how we got around some of the language barriers. And then in terms of sometimes understanding, when you come from a different culture, there's a lot of assumptions and cultural bias in the communication process. And so the way we got around that was to constantly ask questions to clarify. So when you're talking to people, constantly probe them, did I get this right? Did I get this right? And repeat back to them what you think you heard. And that always made sure we were on the same page.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to add one more question to the panel. And that question is that as IEPs, we have our education on our resumes. The question that comes to our mind is that, is education to be highlighted more than our experience? So what is your experience on that? I mean, go ahead if you
I
want.
just want to say one thing about that. Again, from the program experience and working with the many IEPs who have successfully found employment after going through these two programs, one of the things IEPs tend to do when they first get here is they think, oh my goodness, I need a Canadian degree. So let me go back to school and get another one. If you have a PhD or a master's already, you don't need another certification. You have the skill set. The question comes down to, again, you being able to share your previous work experience. I think the only time you might want to consider going back for another certification, it might be to enhance the skill set you have. So let's say you want to go into mobile technology, you're already great in tech, but you want that additional skill set, or you want or for example, you want to get your PMP because you're a project manager and that certification is helpful, then in those cases, go ahead and do it. But I wouldn't suggest that you go back and get another degree on top of the degrees you have, because some employers will see you as overqualified.
Okay, good. Fawad, do you have to say something?
Yeah, I'll agree with Claire, like, you don't have to go get another degree, but you certainly should be aware of your skills, and you should be able to articulate your skills of whatever it is that you've gained from where you're coming from. One thing that helped me in the past was I focused on specific roles. So I wasn't I wasn't flapping around to say I could do this and I could do this and I could do this. I focused on the role, and I said, this is what I'm going to go after, and I'm going to understand everything that's required in this country to go and present myself for this job. The focus helped me clarify my own direction, work through my barriers, and kind of just understand that this is who I'm going to be in the near future. So focus helps, the direction helps. You don't want to go in too many directions. If you have a mechanical engineering degree from any country and you're coming here and you want a mechanical engineering role, you possibly may not get the best role for your fit, but there might be other areas that you could find that you would grow into that role. So you need to be able to make the compromise at some stages, but recognize the end goal that you're after, and then focus on it. So I think work experience again helps you get into those other positions that you could find yourself in the ideal role.
Good. Coming back, do you have to add? Oh, please.
May I just add quickly, from a practical perspective, I would suggest that the answer to the question is completely subjective to the circumstance. So that if you are applying for a position where you don't have the skills, the real world experience, and yet you have the education, then you emphasize your education and you connect the dots to whatever skills you do have. When you're applying for a position where you have the skill sets, but not necessarily the strength of education, then you reverse the approach and you emphasize your experience set. The point is, that I have found at least that the single greatest barrier into an organization is getting past what is the HR filter. And in order to get past the HR filter, you need to connect the dots for people who don't do what you do. They're not technologists, they don't program and write code, they don't, create networks. They simply hire the people who are coming into the organization to do these jobs. And it isn't to say that you're not going to hit the hiring manager, but to get past that initial screen, you have to connect the dots with people as to why it is you can do this job. And is it because of your education? Is it because of your experience? Is it a combination of the two? That's entirely up to you to determine and then communicate.
Okay, let me add one more aspect, and then I would come back to the panel. And we are discussing skills, experience, and education. And I would like to add one more question, that you can share your personal experiences about your skills and your experience that helped you reach where you are today. So, coming back, yes, you want to say something, Rahi?
Yeah, sure. So, in terms of the skills that sort of helped me get to where I am, I would probably say, first thing is I have to give credit to good fortune, because I do have a psychology degree and I'm working in the tech space. So in a sense, it's possible that you can find other sort of work in the technical space. So with that said, I'd say that I was never content with the knowledge that I have. So all of us today are probably eager learners, and that's just, you have to be a learner at all times. So that was one component. The other component I'd say was I was able to transfer that knowledge to other people. So in other words, impart what I know. So that helped me quite a bit as well. So it's the communication piece. And then I'd say the other thing is just being adaptable, because as you know, you cannot look for a role. You cannot look for a job title specifically, but the way your skills can transfer to various roles in a sense. So just being adaptable and being prepared for it, because businesses and their needs, they keep changing, and that's something that sort of helped me.
It might be terrible advice, but for me it's worked out. So I just tend to do what I feel like doing at any one time. So I take these measured risks and I follow my intuition in doing so. And I think that, obviously everybody has intuition, but some people follow it more than others. And so I think that really it's a matter of following your intuition quite strongly, because it will never lead you astray. It will always take you towards the right place. I also think it's important to just roll with it, roll with what's coming your way, and see how you can turn that into something positive. When I came back to Canada, I felt a lot of reverse culture shock. It was really difficult to be here, and I wanted it to be a different place. I wanted it to be Chile, but obviously it's not Chile. So instead of focusing on all the things that it's not, I realized I really have to focus on the things that it is and it can bring. And this is also a lesson that I've learned from taking improv comedy classes, where there is, the main rule in improv comedy is basically, if someone makes you an offer, if someone offers something in a scene or a situation, you accept that, you don't block it. So for example, if I say to Lori, what a beautiful box you're holding.
It is a beautiful box, wow. Where'd you get it from?
But if you build on that, yeah, this beautiful box, but you know what? It's full of worms. That is so much funnier than saying, I'm not holding a box. So it's about really taking offers that are coming your way, even if it's ridiculous and it doesn't make any sense, take it and build on it creatively, and see where you can go with it. And last, I always persevere. I don't stop until I'm happy. And since things are always changing, I just don't stop. So my nickname is Little Bull, actually, Torita.
Brothers, because of your experience.
Yeah, good. Yeah, Evan, go ahead.
Not to repeat about the story, but of July of last year, we were hiring a team of Python developers. And somebody comes up and says, I know this guy who's going to be immigrating into Canada. He's not here yet, but you might need to look at his resume. I don't even remember seeing his resume, but my CTO reviewed it and said, I want to talk to him. We had a Google Hangout interview, first connection. He had a job interview the second day after landing in Pearson, and we gave him an offer pretty much on the spot. So yes, when you're in emerging technology, in emerging market, there is a chance to even get a job before really coming to Canada.
I just want to make one observation. Both of your stories, they relate to connections that you had. Yes, you said connections, right? They're connections. They weren't out of a job posting. They weren't out of a LinkedIn profile. And not to say that those are important. They're absolutely important, and you have to do them. But you know, Toronto and Canada is wonderful for so many reasons, and one of them is that there's just so many of us who are immigrants, so many of us who have experienced what you are experiencing today, and therefore we want to help others who are coming in behind us. There's so many of them out there, and those are two great stories that you just told, where that connection of one to the next were what allowed for someone to get hired in your organization. And you have to use that. Who do you know? Who do you know that is perhaps similar to you, that has the same background, that knows you well, that can speak well of you? It goes back to one of the points that we made before about how things, whatever it is that you do today, will have repercussions down the line. And connect with those people and have them go out there and be our ambassadors and talk to people to do exactly what happened to you at least twice, and probably you have more stories.
Absolutely. Actually, that candidate stood out in ICE. We were working with a recruitment agency, but he stood out. Even though we didn't see him, we didn't interview him in person, but he already stood out, and he had things kind of lined up for him. And yeah, so absolutely. So, but actually what underlines that is that what matters is what people say about you when you're not around. We didn't hear, these people that I mentioned in the stories, I have never seen them before. It's somebody else spoke on their behalf with absolutely no reasons, just because that person stood out and was worth mentioning.
Good. This question of culture, Shahid highlighted in a previous question that there was a question that, you know, someone was a manager in the native country and now here. What could be the barriers? And now the question is culture. You mentioned that you learned the culture, the nuances of the corporate culture here. So the next question is that, can you comment on the importance and impact this cultural thing has on being a successful job candidate? I give you an examples like non-verbal communication styles, attitude towards authority, and career growth expectation in workplace social etiquettes. Yeah. So anyone? There's on the cultural aspect.
Just
Jeremy?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, Evan, go ahead.
Just actually made me think, so in my company, just going through everyone, I don't think we have any two people of the same background. So everyone is from a different country or different nationality or ethnicity, and maybe even religion. I don't really know, but what actually makes us really strong is our diversity. It's that we're so different, and that makes us actually much, much stronger, because everyone brings different experiences from Asia, from Europe, from Middle Asia, from Austria, from Canada, and from US. And that actually made the cultural differences made us stronger and makes our company actually grow faster.
Interesting. And at IBM, for an example, for a larger corporation, I mean, or TELUS, or IBM, any other big corporation. So what are your thoughts on this?
Well, you know, IBM is a global company. We work around resources around the globe, basically, and there's no Canadian culture or anything. It's IBM culture, and IBM culture is, you know, what the commitment you made, you deliver that commitment, and you are a team player. You work as a team, and you know the big picture, what we are trying to achieve. I work currently on my project. I have a team in Argentina, I have a team in India, Mexico, and Ireland. So all different, and one person in Australia also, Sydney. So different continent, different time zone, different. What common thing in us is that we are committed and we are moving as a team to deliver the project. So that's my.
Interesting, Jeremy, you have to share.
Yeah, I think, both excellent points, and, really a lot of it boils down to demonstrating your willingness to integrate into any culture or any expectation, because every client or every environment, every company has a different culture, and you have to be ready and willing to integrate into that culture and demonstrate that you are ready and willing to do that. So, for example, I have a client we do a lot of work with that has a global presence, and anyone we're recruiting for them, they often ask they speak at least 2 or 3 different languages, and they give us a list of those languages because they need representation across the globe. And naturally there are some challenges in doing that, and there are some challenges with communicating, amongst team members. But they all begin to understand that client's culture, that company's culture, and and that's the key to success there, and that's what that organization is looking for.
Interesting. Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I'll just add another point. I think that there's range of organizations. Some value diversity. They feel that the more differences that exist amongst team members makes them stronger, right? Which is your experience. There are others that not so much. Obviously, you should, I think, target those that value the differences, that value the diversity. And LinkedIn, for example, is a great tool that you have to do a little bit of research when it comes to who you should target that is going to potentially value you more, because you're going to bring greater diversity to that organization. So use those tools also from this perspective. I think that would be valuable.
And adding to that, there is a question from the audience where they are asking the websites where they can go and find, those are the resources for learning and they get insights into the market trends, and they get the insights into the jobs and improve their resumes, and all that stuff that revolves around entering into the marketplace. So any websites you may share, they are interested to know from you, being recruiters and hiring managers, and if you know some, please do that. One I know is that IEP's directory has got tons of resources that they publish, and they put it online every year. They put a lot of effort in assembling all those resources where you can go and download those material on resumes, and then different type of industries that are there in which you can enter, things like that. So there is an IEP directory that is assembled and published every year with a lot of content and email and website addresses that you can get from. Please go ahead if you have any to share. Yeah, Ivan.
The first that really two things that stand out in my memory is a typical technical news websites which just talk about what the emerging technology, what is being used right now. Probably TechCrunch is one of them also. But what really stands out here in Toronto, and we support that organization called Hacker Nest. They have a monthly meetups of about 300 technology people that get together in a big room, and they mingle, they talk about what they're working on, they share their experiences, they share the projects that they have on the go. And we actually picked up a lot of knowledge ourselves, my team, from Hacker Nest. I'd strongly encourage to participate, come to those events. That's where you mingle, when you get to know and others get to know you. That's where the introductions happen.